short time slot, so I'll start time. I'm going to talk about the pumpkin. As some people might know, the pumpkin is pearl itself. And my discovery of it through conversion together. So about 4 years ago, I'd just been to YAPC in Birmingham. There's a little action shot there from that. Some familiar faces. Standing around by a pub near the Cuddy Sark, which these days looks like that. Oh, they've got the fire out. Okay. Well, so it was emergency social. I can't remember what the emergency was, but I think it was mostly loads of speakers coming and going from Birmingham, and lots of Londoners wanting to go meet them and stuff. So I was speaking with Nicholas Clark and talking about problems that they had when they're trying to convert false repository to subversion. And to me, Git was my favourite new tool. So I put my hand up and said, yeah, all right, I'll give it a go. I don't even know what false it is, but I'm sure it's interesting. I'll be converted and get something for it, right? And there was at least two. So I thought, well, okay, if I'm going to be doing a nice false conversion, I might as well put the early history on first as well. So the false history only started at Perl 5.03, 10 years into Perl's history. So yeah, I thought, oh yeah, I'll just quickly grab some titles and unpack them and chuck them all in the beginning. I found this great site, history.perl.org. It had all the nice timelines and sort of release mentions and things like that. So I found something like about 100 legs of old titles from pre-false days. And so I found the Perl 1.0 title and chucked it in and put the original Perl 1 release announcements and commit message. That was all well and good. And then I found all of the other Perl releases after that, which is basically patches. And I thought, oh, that's really cool because Git commits are basically just patches, right? So okay, well I'll put them in and I'll try and make it as if Git had always been used for this. So one of my favorite commits from that era actually is this one, yeah, Perl 1.0 patch 2. My favorite thing about it is that this is a valid email address from the time. I was giving this talk at a Git conference and one of the other coders goes, "What's that?" Oh, it's good. Anyway. So I trundled along and, Perl 2 and Perl 3 weren't that much different. I was just taking each of the different titles and patch files that I could find and I made a commit out of each one. I found some patches that were incremental against some random Perl 3 beta release, but I couldn't find the actual Perl 3 gamma title or whatever it was. But I did find an email from Larry saying if anyone wanted to copy it, they could email him. So I emailed him. He didn't have a copy anymore. I'm not sure what's that up to that's about. Already, I've managed to extract 62 commits out of all these versions, so yeah, quite happy with that. Moving on, Perl 4, a very classic Perl release. Each commit got a patch, each version got a patch, which is not quite accurate because those versions there was less than 36 releases. Some of the patches were just split because of the Usenet null size and those things. So I could have reduced those. But I think that almost 100 commits. We're starting into the Perl 5 era. Fortunately, all of the early work on that was all kind of lost. So there's only a few. There's a few Perl 5 alpha patches on there before the massive Perl. So yeah, the first one of those is I think Perl 5 alpha 2, which is quite a big change from Perl 4.0.3. So it's not entirely a complete rewrite. Many of the comments are still the same. A lot of the tests are still the same, sort of thing. I was quite happy that Andy Doty tried to crank up his old backup tape, but I think it demagnetized. So, got another 10 minutes out of that. Moving on, there's a bunch more versions in the early 5.0 series, and yeah, carried on. Here we're still talking about only spent like maybe half a week on this, less than that. Not very long ago. By the time we start getting into Charles Bailey's era, it started to have, as well as the patches, there was like little notes by each file in the patch saying like a brief description of them. I was like, oh yeah, that's cool. I'm already kind of processing the patch files, and so I can take the patch file and correlate them by the commit message. And so if there's a whole bunch of files which have the same change message, then I can make those into one logical commit. Great, so I kept going, and that got me up to 5.003, but the force change 1. And managed to get a whole few hundred changes out of that. So yeah, it's a nice fine-grained history from that one. But the thing is that there's a whole bunch of, I couldn't just throw reports on top of that, because there's a whole bunch of history detail that's missing. 5.00307 to 5.004 chips Hudson series. It had a lot more information. It basically had almost every change. It would have a series of files attached and a short description of the change, sometimes a message ID. I'm like, cool, I bet I can download a copy of the Core5 Porters archive and pull out change comments or like a relevant email from that. And so that if you do an annotate, something like that, and you hit the change, and there is a message available for that, it's just there straight away, so you don't have to do any more digging. And so by this stage, the importer, which started off quite small as, I don't know, over 1,000 lines, they're doing fuzzy logic scanning, because sometimes the message ID wasn't there, but if you do a sort of a match by the subject and the author and the time, and rank them and stuff, it's quite a good way to find a relevant email. And I set up the script so that once it found some best email, I could click between them, and then it would just pop up in the editor, and I could trim out the unnecessary stuff. So yeah, up to 1,800 changes already from what I expected would be only a few hundred from all the early code releases. Here's a little Easter egg from that series. Obviously, this isn't a real email. I met up with Randall in Hawaii. He was going to Australia, and I was going to New Zealand to Portland. So we kind of met in the middle, and he told me a story about an early change that he managed to trick Chip to do in a very late series of this release. And so, yeah, I thought I'd put that little nugget in there. And then also, Tim Bunce's series of pearls. Tim Bunce, every time that the pumpkin got handed on to the next pumpkin, they kind of took the practices of the previous one and improved a little bit. And yeah, by the time Tim was using it, there's important information available in each of the commits, each of the changes in the implemental authorities that I could use. And the script had really developed personality by then. And so that's why there's this commit in the Perl repository, which basically is saying, like, well, these perforce changes were actually more like Perl releases than perforce changes than a single change, because the perforce change would have a change log, it was like a little mini Perl release. It's very agile. And so I could use that script on those perforce changes and get even more fine detail out of those. So already we're up to over 2,000 changes, condensing those 100 megs of titles from the history.photo into less than 10 megs of bitmap. Well, then I got onto the fourth stage, At this stage, I was doing what I'd call a hostile takeover, because basically there was still a lot of argument and arguing about whether people wanted to move to Git, and so I could download the OpenC patches, which gave me about change 16,000 on as gzips, most of them anyway, most files are in them, and I could just kind of pull all the rest of the file images from the web interface. So I did that, and it sounds really crazy, but it kind of just demonstrated the point that it could be done. You could extract all history from public information and put it in one distribution. So there were about 30,000 changes at that point, of course, and I got the repository was about 350 megs. But it still wasn't enough. There's a whole bunch of extra information in Force, which I hadn't been worrying about, this integration information. And there were a bunch of web pages which let you effectively run Force commands that would print out information that Force would expect its users to be able to understand about. And this is things like merge tracking. So like someone's done a change on the Perl 5 main branch, and then somebody else is looking at the Perl 4 main, and they're like, right, well, has that change already been cherry-picked into this branch, or has it been skipped? And that's the sort of thing that the Force's integration information was there for. This integration information is so complicated that when the Subversion project reinvented the Force, they left that part out, which is why early Subversion had no merge tracking. So, I mean, you see, obviously, Subversion is essentially the Force, but with a just stable and a few features missing. So, what I did, I happened to be, so after that OSCON, I talked to Tim at OSCON, and I happened to be visiting a friend who lived in Vancouver. He was working for the same company as Garusimi Sarathi, who was the 5.2.5 applicant. And he actually gave me the best advice ever. He's just like, what you need to do is take the database dumps that the Force gives you, and then just load them into a database or something. And so it was the approach that I used. This tool called Get P4 Raw. It was just basically to take those, the database dumps from the Force, load them into Postgres tables, apply constraints, make views as I learned more and more about what the data schema was all about. And then I have scripts that would, or the script would allow me to export it into Git using Git fast support. And so, yeah, it really was, like, reverse engineering the Force actually gave me a much, I found it a lot more user-friendly than actually using the Force. And yeah, it was quite an iterative process. The Git P4 Raw the program grew quite organically, and I had to do loads and loads of import runs. But thankfully, I managed to get the working speed of it up to as much as 500 commits a second for doing a single export run. Because loading, the Force is basically a bunch of RCS files and then some database tables. Brilliant design. I think it's just awesome. Simple, stable, robust. It's missing kind of distributed nature. That was the era it's from. I'm talking early 90s here. So basically, the first pass of the importer would load all the file images in, and then when I'm actually doing the export runs to test the quality of my conversion,